Hello, critics and my audience members. I wanted to say hi and throw a little video up today. This is not intended to be very long. I'm going to try to get right to the point. I have been thinking a lot about the responses and wide picture of our country and our world since November, this sort of upheaval of our election process and the events of the world, including the video I made a couple weeks ago about the United Healthcare CEO shooting and the moral dilemma that that presents, and the rather disappointing way that our nation, at least the power elites of our nation, have chosen to frame and deal with that particular red flag in our society right now. But while I'm disappointed in those things, I am not surprised. It is usual that people will continue to double, triple, and quadruple down on the fixed ideas and solutions that they think are supposed to solve the problems of their life. And if you only equip somebody with a hammer, then the only solution they have to every problem they are faced with is to pound it into submission. And that is sort of the theme, I guess you could say, of my video today. But on a more personal level, I'm not going to talk so much about, our social ills. I'm a psych guy. I think about things at the individual psych level. And I wanted to share some thoughts about moving forward into 2025 and changing the sort of fixed ideas or patterns that we're operating on. And we can only do that individually. There is no way to, mass effect some massive change in perspective or in viewpoint of a bunch of people. You can only appeal to individuals, like I'm doing right now, and hope that they will consider your words and think on what you have to say, and maybe make a change in their own life or their own thinking as a result of what you have to say. You can't control people or their thinking. Even cult leaders are limited in how much they actually can reach into people's minds and massage them into a different frame of mind. But they are very good, of course, at getting people to, in an action sense, comply. Whether they agree with it or not, or whether they want to or not, they'll do it. And I think that that those fixed patterns of thinking that cult members have, well, I think we can see an awful lot of that throughout our entire society. And so that's what I wanted to sort of address, because there tends to be this, well, as I just mentioned, there tends to be this effort to solve problems by continuing to do what hasn't worked in the past and which brought us to the point that we have these problems. Well, let's just keep doing what didn't work and make sure that these problems continue forever, right? I mean, this sort of seems to be the attitude with a great many people in the United States these days. They can't seem to think outside their own boxes. And this has created a situation where people view the opposition to them, anybody who thinks differently from them or sees the world through a different lens or perspective, is not any longer viewed as an opposition or disagreement or something that, oh, you're just somebody who thinks differently than I do. Instead, we have started framing this as they are the enemy. They are an enemy of our values, an enemy of our group, of our nation, of our world, of our species. They are enemies to all of these things, merely because they hold a position that is different from ours. And I know a lot of people hear things like that and immediately jump to all the thought-stopping cliches that have been so carefully installed in our heads over the last many years by social media, mainly. Things like, well, how am I supposed to talk to this person or live with this person or be in the same space as this person when they want me dead? Well, That's a really nice thought-stopping cliche to shut down your thinking and shut down any possibility of solving the problem. So instead of thinking that way, maybe we might want to think a little differently. Because the fact of the matter is that not one conflict or violent incident in all of history was ever solved by sticking our heads in the sand, running away, or refusing to engage with the problem. This isn't to say that I'm suggesting that everybody rise up and, confront our neighbors or something. I'm suggesting a little bit of a different shift in perspective. In fact, I'm suggesting today that the only way that we can move forward into 2025 with any degree of security and safety and certainty or hope, let's forget certainty. Let's just talk about some hope. The only way we can really move forward in that is to change our perspective. What has been being done hasn't worked, so time for a change. And maybe instead of any change is better than no change, perhaps we could consider and think about this a little bit and look at, well, what kind of change? Well, how about a broadening of our perspectives to start with? If we're all going to sit around calling ourselves good critical thinkers or people who are making a stab at being critical thinkers, then we better practice what we preach. And if we go back to the very basics of critical thinking, like John Stuart Mill writing on liberty, then we know that freedom of speech is vital, and that not only is it vital that we be able to say what we want, but that part of exercising responsible freedom of speech and responsible citizenship really is taking the time to understand the viewpoints of other people around us rather than insisting that our own viewpoint is the senior position with authority and is the only morally right one, and there can't be any other one. This is exclusionary thinking and not compromise or society adapting or thinking. So so it really is imperative to develop an attitude within yourself that if you're frustrated, upset, confused, anxious, stressing out, the thing to do is get more data. Find out more about the situation or problem or person that you're stressed out or anxious about. Get more, find out more. Don't pull in your flippers, push them out. Get your head out of the sand into the world and engaging with it. This is an important principle, and it's not an all or nothing, black or white thing. Like everything, there's a spectrum. You can do a little bit more if you can't do a lot more. If you can't deal with that, just take a little bit. Any little bit counts. It's just like doing physical therapy. Any little exercise, any little motion in the right direction is helpful to your health. This is what's really good for your mental health. And the reason why I'm talking so much about pushing out and getting more information and data is because the thing that often causes our stress and anxiety is the way we are thinking about something. We're fixed into a particular way. It has to be. We're tunnel vision based on our prejudices and biases and our education and our judgments that from the past. And often a lot of this also has to do with our social networks. What will our friends think? What does our family think? What's the situation at our job? What views do I have to hold or opinions do I have to have in order to secure a good income? Sometimes these things are necessary, and we are fixed on these views because of these influences in our own life, but it's stressing us out. It's causing us to see things from a skewed, biased perspective that traps us and doesn't allow us to think through solutions or ways to resolve conflicts when we're stuck in those patterns. And I can tell you that when it comes to the bigger picture problems of the world, we as individuals have very little agency and very little power. So expecting the world to conform to, our group standards or our ideas or our morals is pretty much the fastest path to unhappiness I can think of. The other thing about this is that if you are in a position where you are constantly or you're feeling often stressed, freaked out about things in the world, situations around you, that's actually going to stop you or prevent you from finding and implementing rational solutions to the problems. Because stress and anxiety and trauma triggers light up parts of the brain that demand fight or flight, immediate, right now, has to be dealt with kind of solutions, and shuts down the parts of the brain that operate in longer term thinking. So bringing the dial down for yourself on your own stress and anxiety levels is actually crucial to being able to come up with the solutions or accommodations that you need to figure out. And this is really important for us as individuals to take responsibility for on our own part, because the world isn't here to conform to our needs, as I mentioned before, right? And it's not the natural order of things as we see them is very much and very often not the actual natural order of things. It's just our way of thinking. It's the story we tell ourselves and have been telling ourselves our entire life. But guess what? The great thing about life and our interaction with it is we can always rewrite our story and tell ourselves a new one. And I can't think of a better example than coming out of a cult to illustrate exactly that kind of thing. People do it all the time. You write the story of your life as a cult member, believing, for example, in my situation, when I was in a cult, that I was saving the world, that I was a Jedi Knight, that I was part of, not really, but that I was part of the Matrix operation, right? I was part of this small group of spunky, plucky, revolutionaries who were going to change society from within, and we were going to save the planet and save the universe. And this was the story I told myself about my life. And because I was telling myself this story, I was able to justify or rationalize being at the receiving end of an incredible amount of abuse. Physical abuse, psychological abuse, food deprivation, sleep deprivation, being beaten on. I put up with all of it for decades because I was telling myself a story. Well, we all tell ourselves a story about what our lives are and what we're doing with them and how we navigate the world and our place in it. We have this perspective of ourselves. And it's only through gaining more knowledge and more awareness of our situation around us that we ever have any hope of changing that story, of doing something or being something different than the way we are or what we are doing now. And how you are or how your life is something that you are unsure of or uncertain about, or you don't know, how you're going to navigate into the future, well, this is a place to start, is find out more about what's going on. Get more and different perspectives. So those are basically the thoughts I wanted to share today. I know it's short. I know it's simple. I actually fought with myself for a few days as to whether this was even had any value in saying out loud or putting out there for y'all to think about. But I think it does. And it's something that I have been doing for quite some time. It's what I've just described to you, as simple and as easy to dismiss as it might sound, has been the central thing that has enabled me to get out of a cult and recover from a cult pretty much on my own. Gotten a lot of help, of course, from a lot of people over the years, but the work that I just described of reflection and defining my own worldview inside the cult and then outside of the cult, and then gaining more knowledge about lots and lots of different things, from psychiatry to economics to psychology to politics, all of the things that worry and cause you anxiety. Those are the things to go learn more about, because you're probably in a position of stress and anxiety because you don't understand or know enough about it. And knowledge is power. Knowledge is a lot of things for people. It is enabling. Lack of knowledge, ignorance, is disenfranchising and dispowering. So, so as easy as it might be to dismiss this rather simple sounding advice, the truth of the matter is it's some of the most powerful and enabling advice you'll ever receive, at least as far as I'm concerned. So that's why I took the time today to say all of this. I hope you'll take it to heart, and I hope that it helps. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye. You want to say hi to everybody? You want to say hi? See, there's the people. probably not too interested in them, huh? Yeah, it's okay. Oh, but I got to record. We'll play after I'm done, okay? All right, buddy.